Good morning. This is Cup of Joe, listening news hour. Good morning, good morning.
In record numbers. Got Judge Stearns up in Massachusetts who doesn't like the fact that Marco Rubio effectively told him to go pound sand and that he was not going to give a student visa to a 18-year-old Massachusetts girl who is a student at Babson College who got removed illegally to Honduras. Judge gave the Trump administration the opportunity to fix their wrong, right their wrong. Trump administration said go pound sand, and the judge said I got a better idea. Let's do contempt proceedings and a contempt order against the Trump administration. That and Judge Boasberg, who just said out loud that he was effectively told to go pound sand, literally, in his new order related to 137 men meant to disappear by the Trump administration without due process. He said, I got a better idea. You're going to bring them all back for hearings. Cover it all, along with my co-anchors on Legal AF, the podcast. And here's a clip. So let's move to how judges are handling corruption. As I asked for, I demanded the federal judges start using the power, the inherent authority to find the Trump administration in contempt. So we have this interesting case of how a judge handled it, of Amy Lucia Lopez Biosa, who until 2 weeks ago, till Thanksgiving actually, you would never have known about her. She was a hardworking young woman, proud to be in America, straight A student in Texas, got into Babson College in Massachusetts, and you never hear about her except, maybe she ran for Congress or Senate or the presidency. But because she came here when she was 8 years old from Honduras, and her parents applied for asylum and apparently didn't get it. When she was 11, there was an order of removal. Well, because of the DREAM Act and because we had people in this country running the country like Obama and Biden, she didn't get deported or removed. Of course, now that we're throwing out every migrant and immigrant with the bathwater, she tried from Babson to go visit her parents and surprise them for Thanksgiving. Goes to Logan Airport in Boston, and I guess her name's on a list, and she gets brought into detention. A federal judge orders her not to be removed, but she already got removed to Texas. Okay, here she is. And from Texas, there's another order for her not to be removed from the United States, and she gets removed illegally and against the court order to Honduras, where she's according to this judge's order, she's still doing her studies by Zoom with Babson College. So the judge, after the federal government admitted, like they did in an earlier case of Kilmer Abrego Garcia, admitted that she was illegally deported or removed from the country because an ICE agent with a short staffing problem misread an order and sent her out. The judge says, all right, it's commendable that you admit that you made an error. Bring her back. He says, oh no, Judge, you don't have the jurisdiction to order us to bring her back. What are you talking about? He probably looked down at his robe, Judge Stearns, and said, I'm wearing a black robe here, aren't I? I have inherent authority. Oh no. Well, I'm going to give you the opportunity to fix it. Marco Rubio, Secretary of State's got a lot of powers, right? Have her order her to have a student visa. Bring her back. And the Department of Justice and Martin, Secretary of State, said we decline the invitation. It's like an invitation. I've been in federal courts for 35 years. I've never seen a federal court's comment to be an invitation. I decline that invitation. Thank you, sir. And so the judge issued an order on civil contempt. Why don't you take it from there?
Hackett Trump donors are attacking Daniel Liss. I won't stand by.
Good morning, people. It's Cup of Joe, listening news hour, and it seems to be a good morning. Yes, I hope everyone's day is going great so far. And thanks for stopping by. Stop by, say hi, leave a like. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, as you pointed out blatantly, there was an order, do not remove her for 72 hours, trying to give her a chance to fight the deportation order. Government blatantly ignored it and deported her. And so, Judge Stearns saying that they have until February 27th to bring her back. Really upset at the government, rightly so, for ignoring him to this day and saying he's going to hold them in contempt if that doesn't happen, which, the trial judges for sure have been the most resilient part of the, I guess you could say, resistance to the lawlessness. They're the ones with the initial view of the case, they're the ones with the facts, applying the law correctly. I think also, and you probably would agree, Popok, that they're showing less deference now to this administration than they would have in the past. This past year, they have seen that they don't deserve that deference, that the blatant lawlessness. So him acting quickly here, and will they agree? They tend to capitulate, right? They have this bluster, I think, the Trump administration. But I imagine maybe they will bring her back by the 27th at this point.
Let me read to you from this order. So whenever I see the Bible being cited, it gets me excited. So here's what Judge Stearns wrote in his order. Wisdom, this is first paragraph. Wisdom counsels that redemption may be found by acknowledging and fixing our own errors. Proverbs 28:13. In this unfortunate case, the government commendably admits that it did wrong. Now it is time for the government to make amends. And he then goes through the case for Amy and the emergency judge's order that she not be sent to outside the country. In other words, the reason, and just a little bit of a tutorial here, the reason the Trump administration moves and removes people, moves them from their jurisdiction where they're picked up, where they live, to another United States jurisdiction, and then removes them out of the country, sometimes in the same day or same 24, 48-hour period, is to get them away from federal judge jurisdiction. The federal judges of choice for the Trump administration reside in Texas. So if you're picked up in Massachusetts or Chicago or Portland, Oregon, or Minneapolis, all of a sudden, even though you have no connection to Texas, suddenly you're chained, put on a transport, and sent to Texas. But what really is happening is you're being sent away from a federal judge, maybe a Biden or Obama or Clinton or Bush appointed's jurisdiction. Okay, so now the first move of the shell game, whoosh, Texas. So now the jurisdiction lies in Texas for any writ of habeas corpus petition, which is more likely it's a conservative judge, maybe a Trump judge. So now they're in Texas. Now we get to removal. Why are they being removed out of the country so quickly? To get them away from federal court oversight. And judges are wise to this. So what they're saying is, they're also wise to something else. A development at the United States Supreme Court from last spring involving Kilmer Abrego Garcia, in which they backed a federal judge who came up with the concept of facilitation. I call it the facilitation doctrine. It's really Judge Dennis's. And now every federal judge is using it, which is, I'm going to order that the federal government facilitate the return to the United States of the illegally removed person. I have that power. Their argument had been, the Trump administration, no, Judge, you lost your jurisdiction as soon as we put those people on the plane. And the response is, no, if I had an order in place, like Judge Stearns, Judge Boasberg, Judge Zinnes, then I have the inherent authority to order you to facilitate the return. And the Supreme Court, which never agrees on anything, they can't, as I joke, they can't agree on their lunch order. Who got the tuna salad, okay? 9-0 said that facilitation concept was right for due process. So now all the judges are using it, facilitate, and Judge Stearns uses it. Let me go over it. So after he goes through all of it, he says that the respondents have readily acknowledged they violated the order on page 5, so that's an admission. He says, the judge says, in the spirit, the court suggested, when a black robe judge suggests something, you better follow it, suggested that the Secretary of State with his considerable powers, provide 80 with an expedited student visa. The Secretary of State regrettably declined the invitation, and now the court said we're now up to civil contempt. He then cites to John Adams in his capacity as not only a founder, but in helping to write the Massachusetts Declaration of Rights, which was the model for our Bill of Rights. He does that as well, and says that this argument that the Trump administration brings up, which is, Judge, what does it matter? Even if we brought her back and you ordered us to facilitate, which he has, we're just going to put her in immigration detention, and down the road, she's probably going to be removed anywhere. And the judge wagged his finger and said, not so fast. That's not for the executive branch to be judge, jury, and executioner on immigration policy. It's up to the judiciary. So don't presuppose what's going to happen in the future after a court of appeals determines the extent of her due process rights. You don't get to crush her due process rights and say, well, she'll probably just be removed in the future anyway, Judge. That's not for you to do. So, using the facilitation doctrine, on page 7 of the order, it says the respondents, which is the government, are ordered and directed to facilitate 80's return 14 days from the date of this order, and then transmit it to everybody, file status reports about it and what you're doing to facilitate, which is a page out of Judge Zinnis's book and Judge Boasberg's book about facilitation requirement. Now, Kilmer Abrego Garcia, it took a United States Supreme Court decision. Even then, the Department of Justice manufactured a fake criminal case against Kilmer, which is likely to be dismissed in Tennessee before they brought him back to keep him in detention. 137 disappeared Venezuelans. The Trump administration, even though they just got ordered by Judge Boasberg to facilitate their return for due process purposes, you can see the Trump administration is going to keep fighting that. I'm not sure. I'm not as confident as you are, Dina, that they're going to bring back Miss Boyosa. They don't like to admit mistake or defeat, even though this would be easy. While Donald Trump's busy giving pardons to, former NFL players for their corruption, which he did in the last couple of days, why don't you take pity and call it mercy? Call it, you know what I mean? All these people that are being pardoned for fraud, billions of dollars wiped off the books. Give this poor girl, okay, an amnesty and give her a student visa and let her come back to Babson College and let her be an American in the future and give her a path to citizenship. How about that? But I'm not sure he's going to do it given these other cases.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just hoping, because right now, I don't know if the Trump regime is as focused on this, to be quite honest. I mean, you and I are focused on it because this is part of our, making sure we see every illegal move they're making. But they are a little bit more focused on Epstein. And I think they took such a hard line with the Kilmer Abrego Garcia because it was in so much the news. And they needed to see that they weren't backing down. And I can sometimes be an optimist and maybe to a fault, but the fact that the facilitation doctrine even become part of our new legal theories, Judge Zinnis will be in the history books as really being willing to stand up, the first one to really stand up. And it really isn't about, I agree with you, the mercy of her, of like, gosh, isn't this exactly the kind of person we want in this country, who wants to get an education and contribute to our society, but also just frankly, her due process rights were violated. And if it's that easy, if they think they can show it, no skin off their back, go ahead and show it when she returns. Yeah, I know we're going to be talking about Pam Bondi in a little bit, but it just feeds into their whole mentality of Trump's personal mentality of never being able to accept a loss. But the actual lawyer in front of the court will be the one held in contempt. So perhaps that particular lawyer might not want to go quite as far as, Trump would.
And here, just to your point, she's not a member of Tren de Aragua. She's not a narco terrorist. She's not, right? She's not a drug gang.
She's a female.
She's a lovely young girl, woman who's in college, okay? You do what you know, that is the perfect poster child to, where he could be the bigger person, although I don't think that's even possible with Donald Trump. But we will see, and we'll continue to follow that. Welcome back. Glad you're here. As I said, federal judges need to start using their contempt weapon, their tool in their tool bag more often against the Trump administration. That was Legal AF, the podcast, every Wednesday and Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Help us continue to grow our audience for the podcast. Keep us in the top 20 of all YouTube podcasts.
Thank you very much. What's happening on the other side of town?
All right, folks, I have an urgent story for you, something that you absolutely...
Reverend Jesse Jackson died. Oh, wow.
Run for Congress this year. I'm supporting Nick Tesla down there. He's a terrific candidate for us. You need to check him out. But in the meantime, we have got two Lincoln Project greats, co-founder George Conway and our former executive director and former director of our veterans operation, Fred Wellman. George is running in New York, and Fred is running in the great state of Missouri. I am delighted to have both of them on the show today, and I think you will enjoy it. Let's get right to it.
Your task will not be an easy one. Your enemy is well trained, well equipped, and
Well, folks, welcome back to the Lincoln Project podcast. I am absolutely delighted to bring you our good friend of Lincoln Project co-founder, and now a candidate for Congress from the great city of New York. It is George Conway, the one, the only, the man who has been a thorn in Donald Trump's side as long as I have, and in some ways even more viciously. And I am thrilled.
That's not possible, right?
Well, I don't know. I'm a generous host.
You are indeed modest.
George Conway is with us, and folks, he is running for the 12th congressional district in the great city of New York, in the great state of New York. As Jerry Nadler has decided he is done with Congress, this seat is open, and George has jumped into this race with both feet, and he's running on a platform that I think a lot of folks understand very clearly. It's to hold this president and this administration accountable, and to get us back to a place where we are not governed by madmen. George, welcome to Lincoln Project Podcast. As always, my friend, talk to us about the race.
You basically summarized it. That's my theory. That's my platform. And I think, I obviously think it's going to resonate here in New York. I think it would resonate in other places. But I also think it's sort of important, even in New York, there are people who kind of don't quite get it, even though they hate Trump and they despise Trump and they absolutely say, we're happy that you're against Trump, but they're saying, well, we can't do, there's a sort of learned helplessness, even in New York, where it's like, well, we can't do anything about Trump, but we can, we just have to worry about our local concerns and wait them out, and we have a nice city, or we have a nice life here. I mean, we can make things more affordable. We can do all of these things. And I agree. There are things, obviously things that we can do from a local standpoint to make things better. But the problem is, you can't really do a lot of that stuff until he's gone. Perfect example. I was just I'm here in my building in West Chelsea, and I'm just looking out the balcony. There's this project called the Gateway Project. It's right out my window. It's see those train yards right there? Those are the LIR train yards, and one of the things that's happening is they're building a tunnel. You can kind of see it down here. There's a tunnel, right? That's going to be the new Amtrak tunnel.
But Trump had a little hissy fit over
Trump, right? Because this is a state that doesn't like him, a city that doesn't like him, and he's cutting the funding for that illegally.
Yes.
And it's a multi-billion-dollar, multi-year project, tens of thousands of jobs. But it doesn't just affect New York City; it affects New Jersey.
Sure.
It affects the entire Northeast corridor. So this is exactly the kind of infrastructure project we need in America.
Yeah.
And we certainly need it in the most densely possibly populated place of the city in the country, in the most heavily traveled corridor in the country. And he's cutting it off. Why?
Retribution. Yeah, spite and retribution.
Work on the nation's biggest transportation effort, known as the Gateway Tunnel Project, is grinding to a halt, with hundreds of construction workers facing layoffs due to an indefinite suspension in federal funding by the Trump administration. The $16 billion project is intended to create a critical new set of rail tunnels under the Hudson River connecting New York and New Jersey. The funds were approved under President Biden and were frozen by President Trump in October. Nationally, shutting this project down would cause a $16 billion hit to the country's economy over a 4-year period, according to the Regional Plan Association. It could also cause a loss of $7 billion in taxes to federal, state, and local governments. New Jersey officials and union workers spoke about the impact of that action earlier today.
This project is a stretch of train that isn't just vital for New York and New Jersey. It is vital for the entire northeastern corridor, the busiest rail stretch in all of North America. This is all being put on the line now by a president, it seems, to just want things named after him.
The president asked Senator Chuck Schumer to consider a deal to rename Penn Station in New York City and Dulles Airport right outside of Washington here in his name, and then he would unfreeze that $16 billion.
And this is a perfect example. He's
Damn.
done healthcare. He's done it. He's doing it with ICE.
Well, his
which is
fucking
very
name on
immigration
everything.
enforcement.
The trash
He's doing
fucker.
with everything. He's basically running the government like a mob operation.
Right.
Pay me, come to me, give me your voter rolls, give me your money, give me your, he's doing it to foreign countries and he's doing it to Americans. And first of all, it's completely violent of his oath of office. It's unlawful. It's criminal. But it really, you can't separate it from how it hurts people. Right. And that's, whether it's the people in Minnesota or the people who are working that job down there, you cannot separate out his corruption and criminality from the well-being of the people whose well-being he's supposed to provide for.
George, I think that's such a good point, because a lot of people are like, oh, Trump is just crazy, and it hurts us in a meta kind of way. It really doesn't. It drills down. I mean, I was recording something a little earlier about these farmers who are losing everything across the country. Correct.
We worry about drought. We worry about pricing. We worry about equipment. We worry about financing. This tariff is just another thing that we have to worry about.
Todd Western III is a soybean farmer in Waterloo, Iowa. He says trade tensions between the U.S. and China are fueling uncertainty for his business. China, the world's largest buyer of soybeans, hasn't pre-purchased any soybeans for the upcoming U.S. harvest.
The revenue on our farm is just like any other farm, is volatile.
Western and other farmers like him are also concerned tariffs will drive up costs. Current rates will mean higher prices for items ranging from fertilizers to farm equipment to tractors.
We do this for the legacy of the farm, and so it's a labor of love.
Todd Western III is a sixth-generation farmer who grows corn and soybeans across more than 200 acres of land on 2 separate farms.
Our farm was established in 1864. They traveled their way out of slavery and settled in Iowa.
Despite a strong planting season, the price of soybeans nationally has taken a hit. One factor, due to the ongoing trade dispute, the Chinese government has instructed its importers to avoid purchasing U.S. soybeans.
Our major export commodity, our number one agricultural commodity, is soybean.
China imports an average of 61% of the world's traded soybeans, including over a fifth of U.S. exports.
It's the same story. There's probably thousands of construction jobs that are now screwed in Jersey and New York City. Union guys, no doubt. And he just doesn't see past the hatreds of the moment. And so,
But it's not just that he doesn't see past the hatreds of the moment. He doesn't give a fuck about anybody but himself and the people who help him.
correct. So you've got a very good possibility this fall that Democrats are going to sweep the House, and increasingly because of what Trump is doing, he's handing the Democrats this election a little more every day. What committees do you want to serve on in Congress when you make it to DC in order to start holding him accountable? And what does that look like when you're there?
Look, I mean, obviously the House Judiciary Committee government reform and oversight, the two committees that are most likely to conduct investigations into the corruption and illegality, and also to conduct impeachment hearings, because the whole crew has to go. The whole crew
has to go.
And, you know, even if people say, well, we don't, again, it's the learned helplessness. Well, who knows, we have the votes, we need Republican votes and all that stuff. It's like, you can't wait till you have the votes. You have to make the case. And you have to make the case to the public, and you have to put pressure on him, and you have to put pressure on the shameless, craven cowards who stand up for him no matter what. Right. The Susan Collinses of the world, and you know, the people, you know, and look, if it fails, at least you try. But it's not going to fail because we made this a self-fulfilling prophecy that he can get away with whatever he wants. Right. He can't do anything about it. Again, the learned helplessness. We all have to fight. It's a combined, you know, it's a combined arms effort, if you will. It's got to be. We need lawyers like me who are aggressive and are not afraid of Trump in Congress to prosecute the case, to prosecute on the floor of the Senate if there's an impeachment trial. Well, when there's an impeachment trial, we need people out on the streets, and it all has to be a unified effort together. And we have to see, you know, we have to see electeds out on the streets at the No Kings rallies, you know, everything. We have to get to that point where, you know, change can happen, and so political, comparative political scholars of comparative politics say basically you need 3.5% of the population in a democracy that is undergoing stress to make real change. I think we can get there. I think he's going to make us there. Yeah, and that's what this is all about. And it requires a multi-front war, and it requires basically saying the guy's a fascist, he's a criminal, he has committed multiple high crimes and misdemeanors. And the one thing that the framers of the Constitution gave us ultimately as a protection was it gave Congress the power to impeach and remove criminals.
And no matter how hard it is,
correct.
If you let a criminal get away with it.
Right.
You know, and I always go back to this, you know, even Nixon had the dignity to leave. Even Nixon had the dignity to go, and he was probably the most monomaniacal president before Trump in our lifetimes. Correct. In that kind of way. You know, sheets don't usually fail all at once. It's sort of the small things. The corners won't stay put. The fabric starts to feel thin and scratchy. They're either warmer or colder than they ought to be. They're starting to look a little tired, a little gray, a little rainy. Not great. You don't always realize how bad they are until you finally have to replace them. So if your sheets are starting to pile or thin or gets unpleasant, that's a sign to upgrade to Boll & Branch. Boll & Branch's signature sheets are made from 100% organic cotton, and they hold their shape. They stay breathable. They feel luxurious every night. We love our Boll & Branch sheets. You know, we were Boll & Branch customers before Boll & Branch was a sponsor of this show. You'll find that with Boll & Branch sheets, you'll fall asleep faster. You'll be comfortable night after night. And you'll actually notice the difference the moment you get into bed. Boll & Branch sheets don't wear out. They get softer with every wash. Made from 100% organic cotton, top quality cotton. They instantly make your bed more comfortable, more breathable, more inviting. Boll & Branch is a one-time upgrade that pays off every single night. No setup, no habit building, no guesswork, just better sleep every night. You know, we've reached the age where a full night's sleep is a real thing now. And Renee and I try to get a good 8 hours every night, and it has made a phenomenal difference in my life, in my thinking, in my writing, in my quality of life, in my health. And I gotta be honest, Boll & Branch has been a part of that. They will help you get that full night of sleep that becomes so important as you get to a certain age, and I am a certain age. Compared to our old bedding, it is just an order of magnitude difference. You will absolutely love your Boll & Branch sheets. Sleep sound with Boll & Branch. Get 15% off your first order plus free shipping at bollandbranch.com/Lincoln with code Lincoln. That's Boll & Branch, BOLLAND, branch.com/Lincoln, code Lincoln. To unlock 15% off. Exclusions apply. But I mean, George, one of the other things that you and I have talked about this, and you and I have talked about this since 2014 or so. This guy is not healthy. This guy is not well mentally, and the dangers to the country, I would argue, are mounting very quickly, which is why I think because of his mental illnesses, I think this argument of starting to take out his enablers by impeachment, pressure, removal, etc., is a powerful one, because right now no one says no to this guy in the White House.
Correct.
Right, and we have to show people that there are consequences for supporting him, that he is leading them over the cliff. And I think we have to show that on multiple levels. We have to show that to the people out in Iowa who are just on their farms. We have to show it to the mid-level politicians throughout the country, like that gubernatorial candidate in Minnesota who realized, I can't run as a Republican. There's no way anybody with a bar next to his name can win with what's happened in Minnesota. And we have to do that with, the Susan Collinses and all of these Republican senators who deep down, they know better, but they're afraid. And that's, it has to be a full-on, no holds barred, legal and political challenge. And you can't just say, we're just gonna wait him out. We don't
have 3 years to
the
wait him out.
time.
No.
He's the amount of destruction that he has done in 1 year and 9 days is almost catastrophic. It is catastrophic as it is. And we don't have 3 years. We may not even have till the midterms. I mean, he's gonna try to fuck with the midterms.
You gotta win the midterms, because if we don't win the midterms, it's just gonna be, they'll find a reason to impeach me. I'll get impeached. We don't impeach them, you know why? Because they're meaner than we are.
I think that's right. I think that the stuff down in Fulton County, Georgia this week was exactly a pregame warm-up.
Right.
Hey, Sidney Powell's back. They're gonna screw with the midterms.
Yeah. Tulsi Gabbard is down there, national, what the actual, and the whole bit in Minnesota where Pam Bondi sends a letter to I guess it was the governor, saying, hey, maybe we'll pull back the brown shirts,
Give us your voter file.
If you give us your voter rolls. What the hell does that have to do with anything, let alone immigration enforcement?
Last time I checked it, I'm not an attorney, but states control their election process, and this idea that there is some.
That was kind of a federalist kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of one of those.
Hi, April. Good morning.
Yeah.
Thanks for stopping by.
I find it shocking that people have that learned helplessness, that they have that sense of.
Cup of Joe.
Oh, well,
Listening news. Got my trusty Cup of Joe.
Always emerge victorious. One of the reasons I love that you're running is that it does show Democrats, like, you can have a spy, you can have a brain and a spy and know how to go at this guy, and you don't have to feel afraid to go out and take a swing at the bad guys.
As America takes the world stage, we see greatness and we feel honor and pride. But when we see our president, we feel none of those things. He's a dangerous, delusional criminal who shreds the rules and rigs the game.
Good morning, everyone. This is Good One JW. Cup of Joe, listening news. Having my morning cup of Joe and listening to what's going on out there. Welcome in. Leave a like as you enter or exit. It helps me out a lot. Thank you.
Jamie Raskin, Adam Schiff, so many others, Chris Murphy. I can't name them all. But there is still just kind of an inertia. There's just an inertia like, oh, well, you don't have the votes. Let's see what we can do. Look, they're on the right track, for example, in voting down the ICE and DHS funding, which I think they just did.
They did. There's one vote earlier today that while we're recording this, folks, on Thursday. Yeah.
And there's this talk about, well, maybe we can get some things put in the bill that will prevent ICE from doing certain things. And, that's ordinarily, I'd say that's great. But the problem is, it's not enough.
No.
The problem is, these people, look at there's a law that says all the Epstein files that have to be produced. And basically, very tiny percentage of them, they do not follow the law. So putting something in the law as an exchange for funding isn't gonna cut it. They're gonna violate the law no matter what. And I think a different mindset has to be put into place, because what Trump is doing with this succession of votes on interim funding is he's holding the government and the things that the government pays for hostage for his pet project of fascism. In other words, if you you're not gonna get all your government goodies, and we're gonna shut the government down if you don't approve, my $50 billion or whatever the hell he's asking for Bovino and company.
So, I mean, I've had this argument with somebody today who asked me about your race. I said, listen, George is a guy who knows New York really well, lived there for a long time, there now, knows the city, and also knows like how to punch back if Trump says, okay, we're not gonna fund X or Y project for the city, or that they're gonna, roll ICE in at whatever level. You understand his psychology and how to fight him better than anybody else that's possibly gonna think about getting in this race.
Except for maybe you.
Well,
You're not.
I'm not gonna, I trust me folks, I'm not getting in a race.
That's good, we'd knock each other out.
I know, terrible. But you've got this ability, I think, to fight him psychologically and politically and legally that most people haven't really assessed. And I think in an era where his nature is so punitive about everybody who crosses him, it's vital to have somebody who can be a real fighter in the 12th.
Yeah, and a real fighter, and I mean, I think I can do that. I think, because I just don't give a fuck, Ricky. I mean, he can't do anything to me. There's nothing he can do to me. I think he kind of knows that.
Right.
And
he hasn't really come out.
I think it. Boy, he tweets shit at me, but he doesn't really know how to deal with it, because if he likes to intimidate people, and I just go right back at him. Yeah. And he absolutely doesn't like me because I cost him $88 million in the Eugene Carroll case.
Which I love to this day.
I'm putting it on my gravestone. And the other thing about it is the way, talk about the psychology of this, and you have to stand up to bullies.
Always.
And if you stand up to bullies in the right way at the right moment and show that there's nothing to be afraid of, that he's really just a giant, stupid, ignorant, incompetent wuss.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it all breaks down for them. And that's why you have to do it. You have to go right at him, hammer and tong. And that's always been my theory. There's also, there is psychological manipulation of him, which is actually, he's very easy. He's impossible to control, but he's easy to manipulate. And I think a lot of people who have worked for him have learned, they think they can manipulate him because they know they can manipulate him, but they can't control him. But the point is, I don't have to control him. I can try to manipulate him into doing things that are self-destructive, and showing him for what, who he really is. And that's what we did with the Lincoln Project. That's what I did with Psychopath in 24. We just, if I had more money in 2024 to do that, it would have been, better. But we gotta keep fighting. We gotta keep doing it. We gotta find a new way to do it. And that's one of the reasons why I'm running here. Is like, okay, fine. I'm gonna do it.
I love the fact that this is a real public service, and you don't need to do this. You don't need a job. You don't need a gig. This is just a mission for the people of New York and for the people of this country to have a fierce advocate against the most destructive president of our lifetime.
Look, I'm 62 years old. I made my career up Midtown here. I should be out skiing somewhere, like Park City or somewhere where, I had a great career. I'm perfectly happy with my financial circumstances. I don't really want to do this. I should be just watching SportsCenter and going skiing and doing all that stuff. But this is my chance to give something back to the place where I made my career. And to the country. I feel, I just feel like if I didn't do this and I didn't do what I have done over the past several years, in 2020 with the Lincoln Project, and 2024, helping raise money for the Biden and Harris campaigns and running a super PAC against Trump. I mean, if I hadn't done all that, I couldn't live myself. I mean, it's all about,
I get it.
I mean, I just can't. I mean, the amount that this has cost me personally, financially, another nice dog in the background there, it's a lot. But I don't give a shit. I really do not give a shit. It's like, you only get one shot at life, and you wanna make the best of it and do the best you can and do something right.
No, I feel you.
I spent 30 years not in a very financially rewarding job, but it was a slog. And this is my chance to do something where I feel like I'm accomplishing something, not just, just not for self-gratification, but just, I want to do something to make things better. And that's why I'm doing this.
I do love the symmetry of New York created Trump and New York will destroy Trump in the end.
Let it happen. May that.
I mean,
From your mouth to
that to me is the perfect symmetry of, his line of bullshit about who he was in New York versus the reality of what he's done to New York since he's become president. Yeah, and I just think it's a beautiful story arc of comeuppance, and he has some uppance to come, I believe.
Oh my God, he's got so much uppance to come.
So you've got if you're on judiciary or oversight, obviously, I think there are some major players in this administration in cabinet positions who need to be held overseen, oversawn, 5-2, whatever the case is. But I mean, I can't imagine what you would do with a Kristi Noem or a Marco Rubio or a Tulsi Gabbard in that position. But I would make an argument that as Trump has become less mentally acute, these people have become more dangerous to the country than they would have been even in an ordinary Trump administration.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that, because they have to do, two ways. I think one is they have to do more to get his attention because he's much more distracted. And secondly, they're looking out for themselves, and he is creating risk for them. So, they are vulnerable, and but at the same time, they owe him everything. And it's sort of we need to put them in the hot seat as much as possible.
And I guess the other part of this is in the course of regular order, the president doesn't just pick and choose programs to kill in districts.
Correct.
Like the tunnel would not have been, or would not have been ordinarily, he wouldn't have reached down and specifically tried to excise that illegally, as you pointed out, from the budget. There's a lot of stuff in New York with healthcare funding, with transport funding, with infrastructure stuff. All of that, I think you get to hold these people, you get to bring in the Sean Duffys of the universe onto the chair as well, and start getting into who called you from the White House, who sent that order from the president. I think that is the kind of thing that will also be a really helpful framing mechanism for the public for the 2028 election and beyond, right? Yeah. Of showing how corrupt this system really is.
Absolutely. I mean, the whole point is, as I keep saying, he's running the government like a mob operation. For the boss, of the boss, by the boss. Not for the people, of the people, by the people.
Right.
And it's a lot of different things. It's a way to collect money for himself. Like whether it be, the millions of dollars to produce Amazon's bullshit movie about Melania, or the 747 from Qatar, or the people who are giving money to this bullshit ballroom where he says he's going to hold his third inaugural, or the Marvel seat rests at the Kennedy Center. I mean, this is what he wants to spend money on, and of course, ICE, $50 billion for ICE because he wants to basically control everything, a la, have his own brown shirts, and black shirts, and private army. He wants to do all that at the expense of everything else that the government has committed legally to do money. I mean, this is like Ukraine. The money was spent. The money was allocated. Held out back.
Yeah.
He was appropriated. He used it to try to extort Ukraine. Now he's doing this all across the board to everybody in the country. He's doing it to Minnesota. He's doing He's doing it to our allies. He's doing it to people in blue states who just want the government to reimburse them for their insurance premiums. Okay, I mean, this is a government, but this is extortion. This is basically criminal, and if it's not specifically legally criminal, but I think in many cases it is, it's a high crime and misdemeanor within the meaning of the Constitution, which basically, as the federal thing has made clear that, maladministration.
Hello, Joshua. Good morning.
Are high crimes and misdemeanors within the meaning.
Good morning, my friend.
You introduce everybody to TTFC.
Thanks for stopping by my little Cup of Joe Listening News Hour. Thank you. I hope your day is fine. Everything's going great. So it's meds time. Yeah. Get these meds together. Gotta go out and I gotta get a couple of items from the grocery store. Then get back in because I think it's kind of cold today. It was really warm yesterday, but I think it cooled off today. So, yeah, gotta go do some things. Thank you all for coming in. Please leave a like for me upon exiting or entering this video. It helps me out a lot. Thank you.
Why everyone compared to this? Okay. I mean, who was president for the Teapot Dome? This was all the Harding administration. These people, they are nothing.
Grant and Harding were not exactly pillars of propriety, but they were like rank amateurs compared to this.
And
selling organs for $1 million a pop. I mean, for God's sake.
It's unbelievable. And look at from the standpoint of the rule of law, he wants to basically take the rule. He basically says that all the time. We don't need elections. We don't, I don't need guardrails. Okay,
My own morality is my guardrail. Did you ever morality?
He basically doesn't think there should be any limits on anything that he can do. And I mean, if this guy isn't impeached and removed, what's the point to basically Article 1 of what's the point of the whole Constitution? This is the ultimate safeguard, is that you can't have a fucking criminal running the government for his own benefit, screwing the people. And that's what we have. I mean, not just in one thing, everything that he does. And it's like, we can't get rid of this fucking guy. Like, we need to be basically ready to put ourselves to lie down on the fucking railroad track.
Exactly.
Stop this. And the impeachment clauses, that's what you're there for. And Congress, you just can't sit there and say, oh, well, let's send it to committee.
Let's just wait, it's a political question.
Wait it out, and maybe we have the votes, let's see how, let's talk to our political consultants and see how it polls, and all that shit. It's like, no, this is your legal and moral fucking obligation.
Yes, 100%, brother.
Okay, and if you can't get that, get the fuck out of public life.
Right. If you don't understand the level and nature of the threat and the response that's required, go teach community college somewhere. Go do something.
Community college is so nice.
I'm not community college. Folks, we're gonna play you the video of George introducing his campaign, and when we come back, we're gonna let George tell you where you can reach him and help support his campaign. Get in touch with him on social media.
When we see it,
We're gonna walk down to the Capitol.
hear it,
We will give them pardons.
read it, and feel it. We find it hard to believe, but it's real. It's happening on the streets of New York City every day. And just when you think it can't get any worse, it does. It has to stop. We must make it stop. We have a corrupt president, a mendacious president, a criminal president, whose masked agents are disappearing people from our streets, who's breaking international law, and he's running our federal government like a mob protection racket. As for the economy, hey, it's great for him. Crypto, watches, golden sneakers. But for everyone else, groceries, healthcare, prices skyrocketing and millions losing coverage. And he claims now
Affordability is a hoax.
I know how to fight these people. They are corrupt, amoral people. They will stop at nothing to rig the system for themselves. I've been fighting Trump for years, and nothing will stop me. My name is George Conway. I'm the son of a high school educated Navy guy and a Phillips Marine. I came to New York City in 1988 and built a 30-year career here as a lawyer, amongst the greatest people in the greatest city in the world. A former Republican, now a Democrat, I fought Trump publicly in every way I could. And I paid a price. I'll never regret standing up to Trump or for the victims he abused, helping E. Jean Carroll sue Trump for raping her and lying about it. Now Trump owes E. Jean $88 million. He doesn't like me. I don't like what he's done to our great country. And now I'm running for Congress to take the fight directly back to him. On your behalf. On the behalf of New Yorkers, to whom I owe so much. To protect the fundamental rights and basic economic needs of all New Yorkers. To make our nation better than it was before. To write new laws to safeguard our democracy so that we don't end up facing autocracy ever again. This is no ordinary time, and I will not be an ordinary member of Congress. Let's do this together.
Well, that's a great ad, George. All right, you good people. It's time for me to get my day started. Thank you all for coming in. And you all have a blessed day. Thank you. Bye-bye.